Morning. Hello, everybody. Good morning, Crystals. Beloved Threads, Mary Strega. Angie loves to shop. How are you guys this morning? Good morning, Southern Charm. So today is our Friday chat show. Normally I have like a list of just buyer and seller type questions. But today I thought I would do, we kind of do a special edition. We do some accounting and tax. Does not mean I won't answer any other question. But my notes today are really accounting and tax focused. So if you are new to Zoe's Treasures, hi, I'm Tracy. I'm here with my husband, Noel. We are a husband and wife team, and we mainly sell vintage decor. But I do chat shows every Friday. And during tax season, I do chat shows that are primarily focused on taxes. I am a CPA, have, a lot of years, well over 20. I'm not going to tell you the exact because then you'll figure out exactly how old I am. But when I was on, I got to be a guest with Jeremy from Green 13 a couple of weeks ago. And when I was on his show, we had talked a little bit about LLC and taxes. And there seemed to be some desire to have a tax show in the meantime. So we're going to do a mid-year show today. Good morning, Boho. Questions. I have some like the top 6 or 7 questions that I normally hear that I will, jotted down with some answers just because those are the ones I hear throughout the year the most. But if you guys have questions, let me know. Good morning, Jennifer Joy Designs. Anything, accounting, tax. Let's start off with, how do you guys do your accounting? What do you use? Throw it in the chat there. Tell me, how do you keep all of your income and expenses organized? Good morning, Shell. Crystal's Vintage QuickBooks. I expected QuickBooks and just like Excel to be the number one. Extending Grace Shop. Good morning. So I use QuickBooks, Microsoft Excel, okay. Excel, yep. Very, very popular and good choices. So I used Excel at the beginning for the longest time until I got to a point where I felt I needed something just a little bit more. But that does not mean that Excel is bad. I still have days where I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back to Excel. I personally switched over to QuickBooks at the first of this year and absolutely love it. Some of it is a little overkill for a business of my size, but I do like the ease of hooking it up to my business bank account, having everything automatically download, and then I just have to classify it. And it also tracks all the mileage for me. So automatically, which I absolutely love. As long as I have my phone with me, the minute I get in a vehicle, it's tracking where I'm going. And then I can tell it later on if it's personal or business. So that's a huge, huge plus for me. The big thing with, that I'm going with accounting is, you're a bookkeeper. So Crystals, you're a bookkeeper as well. So already trained on QuickBooks. Me too. So that was kind of like, there wasn't any learning curve. Now, if you guys want to go to QuickBooks, there is a small cost to it. It's not much. I think, $30, $40 a month for the online. I don't even think they have desktop versions anymore, which is so sad because it was so much better on the desktop than it is online. But it's a great program. Doesn't take a lot of bookkeeping experience to be able to use. And one of the other benefits of it, and I'm not a representative or anything, I'm just use it. But one of the other benefits it uses, if you are putting in your income and expenses properly, you can get a set of basic financial statements without having to create them for yourselves. So that is a good benefit, so you can really see where you're at. I love discounts. My goodness, have you even been to bed yet? Yeah, I can't believe you're even awake and can type. Y'all, I Love Discounts was on till the early this morning. They did an all-night show. You have gone to bed. Let's see, Farming Family Finance. I use QuickBooks for our farm and other business I manage, but haven't used it for reselling yet. Interesting, okay. So Crystal's Vintage says there's a new $10 a month version, but you can only get that through a bookkeeper's account. Okay, I did not know there was a $10 a month. I need to check it out and see if I can reduce my cost on that. So y'all, if you haven't tried it, you don't have to. Excel works just fine. All you need, accounting doesn't have to be complex, doesn't have to be confusing. You just need a way to track your money coming in, the money going out, and your inventory. Those are the three things. If you could track those in a way where it's classified to some sense, so your expenses should be classified. If you're using Excel, you should have a column where you're saying what it's for. Is it shipping supplies? Is it telephone expense? Whatever it may be. And also tracking mileage. As long as you can do that, you can do it with a piece of paper and a pen. It does not have to be fancy. I do suggest that you do it though. Here's why. And I know it seems like a chore, and a lot of people look at accounting as like, oh, it's not tax season, I don't have to do anything. And well, you don't. I mean, there's nothing making you do it until you get to tax time. But if you don't know where you've been, how do you know where you're going? Those numbers tell a story, and they tell you how you're doing financially. If you have no clue if you're making money or not, your bank account could be growing. You can be getting, have good cash flow. Does not mean you're a profitable business. And you're not going to know that unless you take some time to do your accounting. Now, I preach that, and I am the biggest culprit. Good morning, Taco Lady, CLM Farm. Hello. If I'm missing you, it's just because it's going too fast for me to catch while I'm talking. But good morning, everybody. I lost my train of thought because I stopped. Yeah. Good morning, a reworker's passion. But just because your bank account's growing does not mean that you're a profitable business. And I'm going to divert from tax and accounting for a second, really quick, just to talk about this, because this is a point. It has to do with numbers, so I'm still kind of on topic, kind of. Y'all, don't get misled or sidetracked by people on this app or on Facebook or Reddit or Discord or whatever social media thing you're looking at. That's like, oh, I've been on Whatnot for 5 months and I've made $40,000. Okay, that tells you nothing, because there's a big difference between somebody who's made $40,000, has spent 50 on supplies and they're in the hole by 10,000, to somebody who's made $40,000, spent 10 on supplies and have a profit of 30,000. So sales versus profits. Exactly. There is a big difference. So, I hear it all the time, and it's one of those things that get under my skin when I made X number of dollars. That's gross. They're not telling you how many hours they put into it, what their expenses were. Do they have somebody that's shipping? Do they do this full time? What other life things do they have going on? There's so much to that story that they don't show. They just want to tout, I made X number of dollars in 5 months, blah, 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 blah. Wonderful for you. I mean, that's great. But unless you tell me the rest of that story, that number is absolutely meaningless. I can tell you last year on reselling, and I'll be very transparent with the numbers, we made a little over $30,000. But at the end of the year, after I took off all of the new equipment, it was the first year on Whatnot. After I took off all the equipment, all the learning curves of the stuff I bought, I had a net profit of negative $11,000. So I had a loss. I had a loss of $11,000 at the end of the year. And it can be so misleading to people who don't have any business background. 100%. And that's my like big point. So I could go around here and tell I made $30,000 as a part-time reseller on Whatnot last year. But until I tell you the whole story, you don't know that I actually took an $11,000 loss. So, and I don't say that like, I'm a terrible business person. There's reasons why sometimes you want to focus on a loss. There's also first year in business and startup expenses. As you see all of our fancy graphics, we did invest in a lot of equipment. Absolutely not necessary. If you are new to Whatnot, you can do Whatnot with just a phone. You do not need all the fancy stuff. So I don't want to mislead anybody like that. All right, y'all. If you guys have questions, please, like I said, I have some topics I will talk about. First year, yeah, absolutely. First year, most of the time is a loss. There's so much of a learning curve. And technically, the statistics say the first 3 years are a loss. That's kind of common to see. I'm hoping my second year won't be a loss. So far, we're trending good. But now I say, so far, we're trending good. I wouldn't know that if I wasn't keeping records. And if you aren't, like, when I talk about record keeping, you don't have to be on this every day like, I got to spend an hour keeping my books today. Just set aside some time once a week, once a month, whatever works for you, just to make sure you're caught up, and then review it. Take a look and see how you're doing. How do you know what decisions to make? How do I know if I'm spending too much money? How do I know what my shipping supplies are, my shipping cost? I'm doing free shipping. And I didn't want to make the show about free shipping, but just the fact that I'm doing that means that I had to have a way to go back and analyze my numbers in order to make the decision if I could afford to do that or not. Welcome in, everybody. You're just joining. This is our Friday chat show. Normally we talk all things buyers, sellers, and we can still do that today. I'm open to any questions, but I thought we would do a mid-year check-in with tax and accounting. At the end of the year, I'll do almost every show, at least every other week, will be focused on tax and accounting. At the end of the year, I also will take a Schedule C, and I will walk through it line by line by line so you can understand how to complete a Schedule C. Good morning, Baker's Best, Bees. There we go. I can't quite see. I should, you know what, my husband put this, you can see the corner of it, put my iPad right here so I can see instead of me going like this. Yes, thank God it's Friday. I am so happy it's Friday. All right, let's talk. Unless I see some questions, I'm just going to go kind of some of the most popular questions I see. The biggest, most popular, can anybody guess what is the number one question? See if anybody guesses it, because I see this probably 3 times a week somewhere. This question. I'm going to just wait a second, see if anybody knows what the most do I need I'm sure you're saying an LLC there. Absolutely, that is it. All right, you guys caught it right off the bat. That is the most popular question I get. And those of you who've been around me for a while already know my answer. But, okay, go ahead and do that. I'll be quiet for a second.
Congratulations. You have achieved Hummingbird level.
So, do you need an LLC? Simple answer is no. Simple answer is if you want to do whatnot, you do not need an LLC. And this can be very deceiving because you hear people on shows throughout the week consistently, oh, how do you track inventory? Good question, Extending Gray Shop. Let me finish as I finish talking LLC. We're going to do that because that was one of my other top questions right there. So you'll see it constantly. Set up your LLC. If you do QuickBooks, QuickBooks has a thing. Click here to set up an LLC. Vendoo, if you use that, they have it. Almost every accounting program that you're going to use, you'll see it. You don't have to. An LLC is a tax classification. It is a legal structure for your business, and it provides, I want to say, tax benefits. But that's kind of a misleading conception. If you are just a single member, and when I say single member, we're talking tax-wise. So that means if you and your spouse file a joint return, you two together are considered a single member because you file one tax return. If you're a single member and you create an LLC, your taxes are going to look exactly like they did when you weren't an LLC. It's going to look like a sole proprietor. There's nothing different. There's no special deductions you get, or this is great or wonderful about an LLC if you are a single member. Now, does that mean you absolutely don't want one? There's reasons either way. The best advice that I can give, it's still a Schedule C. That's right. At the end of the day, it's all still on your Schedule C. You need to talk to a CPA or a tax-focused person, accountant, somebody who knows the numbers, a financial planner, and I would suggest an attorney. Those 3 people together will analyze your situation. Some of it depends on what are you doing in business? What are your business goals? Where are you trying to take this business? That can determine what type of legal structure you want to create or not create. How many people you have as part of this business? Do you have investors? Are you partners with somebody? Those type of things all matter. So it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. It also sometimes can take into account what kind of liability you have. Do you own buildings? Do you not own buildings? So there's so many different factors. But in general, just to do whatnot, you do not need an LLC. Not as a standard practice. So just don't be misled with that. Like everybody thinks, oh, I got to do this or else I'm not a real business. No, tell you what, the first time you click start show and you hold up an item, you're in business. So that's just kind of my whole spiel, but I'm happy to answer any questions on that if you guys have more questions. Let's go back to that question on how do you track inventory? Yep, how do you track inventory was the question. So this is a big one. So let's get this picture here. When we talk tax and accounting, they're actually 2 very separate topics. that overlap. So if you think about like a Venn diagram, you have a circle here that's accounting, right? Then you have a circle here that's tax. There's a little spot in the middle that I can't show it with my hands, that those two circles are going to overlap. That's it. Otherwise, tax is a whole separate thing and accounting is a whole separate thing. There's different rules for the way you account for taxes than how you do your general accounting and your bookkeeping day to day. So let's focus on just first general accounting for inventory. How do you track it? Not talking taxes. We're just talking general accounting for inventory. What you should need to know are 4 things on your inventory. It's really simple. It's not a super complicated thing. So you need 4 things on your inventory. What's your beginning? Where are you starting from? So if you just started this year, your beginning should be 0. If your continuation, your beginning for this year is whatever the ending was last year, right? Just rolls over. What's your beginning? What did you add to inventory? What did you sell or take away from inventory? And what's the end? As long as you know 3 out of those 4 things, you can calculate the 4th one. It's just simple math. It's beginning plus additions minus subtractions equals the end. So it's a very simple math formula. That's all you need to know. So personally, how I track it is I use Vendoo. If for those of you not familiar, Vendoo is a cross-listing app. It is not an inventory tracking app. However, it works really well for that if you're diligent about putting your inventory in. And I'm going to cover like a couple of different scenarios here because it really depends on your what you're selling and what your volume is. I have a very niche vintage decor. I can track almost piece by piece. Sometimes I do it in lots, and we'll talk kind of through how that looks. So for me personally, and I'll give you my example, then we'll talk about some other examples. So for me personally, I have Vendoo and I put every item I own into Vendoo. And then within Vendoo has all the information so I can cross-list to wherever. But there's a space there for me to put my cost. Because what I'm looking for is I need to know what I paid for it, and I need to know what I sold it for at the end of the day so I know the difference, right? I need to be able to track that. What you paid for it ultimately is your cost of goods. Or your COGS, you'll see COGS, cost of goods sold. So the way I do it, everything that comes in goes into Vendoo. If it's an individual, let's just take, for example, I buy something at auction. I have 3 or 4 different auction lots. If it's a 1 item lot and I know, hey, this is some special vase, I paid $40 for it. I'll put that in at $40 at my cost. Sometimes it's a lot of items that are like 50 items and I paid $25, $30 for it. So I'll divide it. I'll get, it's about $1 per item. Other times I can buy something that's so much that I've got hundreds of items. And it's more like, okay, all of this is for one show. I just paid $400 for this. This in total is $400, and I can put it in like that if I know I'm going to sell it all in one show. So it really depends. Thank you for sharing this live stream. So it really depends on what your business is and what your volume is. People like Green 13, I Love Discounts, there is no way that they are going to sit there and count thousands and thousands and thousands of items to list individual prices. No, you're going to be like, okay, this palette cost, I don't know how much a palette is. I've never bought one. Good morning. This palette cost $5,000. So this amount of inventory that I have in this location in the warehouse is $5,000. If I sell half of it, I've sold about $2,500 worth of cost of goods sold. If I've sold 3/4, so you're estimating. The key is to be consistent in how you're doing it. So it doesn't matter. The way you're accounting for it doesn't matter. The consistency matters more. Money in, money out. Exactly. So that's kind of the end of the day. That's the accounting side of it. Then you get to the tax side. So you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't track my inventory. There's too much of it. There's too much of all. I don't track my inventory. Maybe you don't, but I guarantee you on your tax return, there's a number. There's an ending inventory number. You have to do something at the end of the year. So now we go from that accounting circle over to the tax circle and where they overlap with each other. There is, yes. So at the end, for taxes, you have to know your cost of goods sold. So let's just talk about inventory for a second here in the sense of, I was going to actually bring dollars down here and I didn't. Let's say this is a dollar bill, okay? I have a dollar bill here. This is an asset. In accounting terms, this is an asset. A dollar in my bank, okay? When I buy inventory, I trade this dollar, I trade it in for an asset. So I take this dollar and I buy this pen. This pen is still an asset. It's still something I own. So when we talk assets, we talk about an asset is something you own, right? Take my dollar, trade it in for this pen. Okay, so now I have this pen. This is my inventory. It's an asset. At this point in time, it is not an expense. This pen is not an expense. It's still an asset. It's still something I own. When I sell it to somebody on Whatnot, I ship it out, I then get another dollar, right? I then get another asset. When I sell it though, the money I originally paid becomes an expense. That's when you get the expenses, when you sell the item. I'm just looking if I'm missing any questions. Well, okay. Oh, you know what? Let me run a giveaway while we're going here. I load all these giveaways and I always forget to run them. All right, we got a giveaway going. You know what you're going to get today? We've got some Smell Good pumpkin spice, like, I don't know, the stuff that the little sachet things. It's like almost pumpkin spice season. I couldn't resist. That's what you're going to get. Let me just write a number 1 on there so I know. All right. That giveaway's up and going. So, when you sell the item is when it becomes an expense. Tax purposes, what we want to know is what we sold. So even if you're a person who says, okay, I don't track my inventory throughout the year, at the end of the year, you still need to go back to that basic accounting formula. What was your starting point? What did you add? What did you sell? And what's your ending cost of goods sold? Because that's the only thing that you can claim as an expense. Everything else that's still sitting on your shelves is that asset. It's not an expense to you. So think about it like this. If I go through all of 2025 and I spend $50,000 on inventory, but I only sell half of that inventory, my expense is $25,000. I don't get to deduct $50,000 off of my revenue. How do you handle it when you have inventory given to you for free? You have zero cost basis in that. So it's just zero cost basis, or you can step up the basis to what the fair market value basis would be. Something like that. If you have inventory just given to you for free, I just put it at zero cost basis. You got it for free. Anything you make is profit on it. Now, I'm talking small business here. If you're a big, huge, large corporation, if you're Target, Kmart, any of these stores, it's going to be, the basic principles are the same, but there's a lot more little nuances that go into it that aren't just worth, they're immaterial and not worth really focusing on when you're small. Does not mean you're going to be doing anything wrong. So hopefully I'm making sense with the inventory. It's basically those 4 things. As long as you can calculate for those 4 things, then you're good. How do you recommend tracking inventory? So I use Vendoo, which I can record my sales price and my cost of goods sold. So I know my starting point. That's the easiest thing. Everybody knows their starting point because you can either look at your tax return or you start it fresh and it's 0. So you always know your starting point. I can track how much that item cost, how much I sold it for, and then at the end of the year, I can look and see what I have left based on what I accounted for. So that I use Vendoo. Spreadsheets are just fine. If you just want to use a spreadsheet, use an Excel. There's nothing wrong with it. It's an absolute beautiful, I love Excel, beautiful way to keep records. You can use a piece of paper. If you don't really want to okay, I'm not writing each individual item or I'm not writing lots of items, you can do it monthly. You could say, okay, January 1st, I ended my year. You can look at your tax return and you can see what your starting inventory was. Whatever it was, say $1,000 in inventory. So then during January, how much did you buy? Oh, I bought another $1,000. Okay, then how much of that did you sell? You can walk through your storeroom, your shed, your living room, wherever you keep your inventory and take almost do like a little inventory count. Oh, I have about $400 left. All right, now you know your ending inventory. Now you know what your cost of goods sold is because you can see those 4 factors. You can get fancy with it. You can do barcode systems. Some of that is, to me, overkill at this point. I don't go that far for myself. What about where you can put price per item on Whatnot. You can do that. So yeah, as you purchase the items and you're listing them, if you are a pre-lister on Whatnot, you can put your price per item there. And I'm sure there's some type of reporting. I have not yet looked at the Whatnot reporting to see how to export. I think you can, if you go to your inventory, you can export the whole inventory, and I'm sure it would have that field in there. I don't see why it wouldn't. So you can use that. You can look at your sales records. It's easier if you have something set up at the beginning than it is at the end of the year to go back and try to recreate everything. Non-tax question. With Vendoo, can you list items you have in a physical shop and then mark them as sold when they sell? Yes, you can, absolutely. And they will, it depends like what kind of POS system you have set up in a physical shop. You may even be able to connect it and it would be automatic. Because then in Vendoo, what's great about Vendoo is when you delist something in one place, whether it's a physical shop, because the same concept goes, if you use Vendoo and you sell on Facebook Marketplace, it's like a physical sale. You can mark it and it'll delist it across the board. Is the inventory value my cost or what I would sell it for? Your inventory value is always your cost. Always your cost. What you sell it for, the difference between what you sell it for and what your cost is your gross profit. It's in a mall where I only have a booth, so nothing. Auntie Billy, you've got pumpkin spice sachet coming to you. Congratulations. Thank you so much. It's in a mall where I only have a booth, so nothing is uploaded. All done manually. Yeah, so that I would just take like your monthly report or something, and then you can go through and mark them off as sold. It's super easy. If you guys have never tried Vendoo, highly, highly recommend. I love it, especially if you sell on other platforms. Life-changing, game-changing type of system. Whatnot currently doesn't have a report for inventory that I can find. They don't necessarily, Striker, they don't necessarily have an inventory report, but they have like on your inventory screen, if you're in your seller hub and you go to inventory, I'm pretty sure at the top right corner on a computer, you can export it to a CSV file. Does inventory always have to be per item or does cost in and out work? No, it does not have to be per item. And that's what I was saying before. If you're smaller and more niche like me, where I kind of buy per item, it works. But if you're buying huge pallets or lots at a time, like sometimes I buy from an auction and I get 400 pieces in an auction. There is no way I'm going to sit there and take my time to tag each and every piece at 25 cents a piece. That's like, that's to me, I just be like, okay, that's about 400 pieces. I paid this much. This is how much it costs. I just use kind of like a basic, average cost. So no, you do not. The key is to be consistent in how you're pricing stuff. Is there a monthly fee for using Vendoo? There is. I find it very reasonable, and it depends how many listings per month. I think I pay like 20 or 30 bucks a month. But the time saving for me on it is phenomenal. I list on 5 different platforms, and to only have to create one listing and maybe just tweak some of the details for each platform is far better than going into each platform and trying to list an item, in my opinion. Well worth it. Let's see. Reworkers Fashion. I keep inventory for each item as I make them. Perfect. See, now let me point this out. A Reworkers Fashion is going to be a little bit different than me as a vintage decor person because she makes her items. She's in the handmade. So when you're talking about inventory and handmade, it's not just, oh, I went and bought this pen. It's, I bought a pen and paper and stickers and I made this whole junk journal to sell. It's everything that goes into it. So it's a little bit different than for us that are just buying an item and flipping it quickly. It's actually, I would think the handmade category is probably even a little more labor intensive for inventory. I don't know, maybe not, because as you're purchasing items, you can just keep an inventory log, but you really need to then understand how much of that, Reworkers Passion, I do not exactly know, but let's say there's like a bottle of some scent. I'm guessing how you make soap. I know nothing about soap making. But you guys, if you haven't tried her soap, fantastic, fantastic. I told her in her chat the other day, her soap is like currency in our house. My husband orders from his account. I order from mine. And like I get my box and he gets his and I'm like, don't touch my box. So it is. And then my daughter will come and she'll like deal between the two of us. She's like, can I have your chai tea, whatever? And she'll come to me. She's like, do you have a lavender one? She like plays us for our soap. Anyways, so when you're doing handmade, and this kind of goes to for any of you who are doing upcycling stuff, that's amazing. Yeah. I'm looking to see if I'm missing any questions really quick. Oh, Crystal, I'll answer that in just a second. If you're making anything or you're upcycling, so maybe you're not a handmade person, but you take, vintage decor and you upcycle it in some way. Everything you use to upcycle that product goes into your product cost. So your product cost is what you paid for it and whatever the cost was to improve that product to the point of selling it. So if you're putting a piece of ribbon on it, or you're adding any types of embellishments, or you're fixing the product, anything like that, all of that is part of that inventory cost. Question on Vendoo. How would Vendoo work if you are doing random polls, or will it? So Crystals, I do random polls on some of my stuff. On Monday mornings, I do random polls. I don't like to list things. And this is usually stuff that comes in before I take the time to do all the photographing and everything. I want to see if I can just sell it on Whatnot. More beneficial to me. I'm saving time. I sell it and I move it on. So what I do then is when stuff comes in, I'm usually tagging it in one way or another. If they're individual items, and because let's face it, let's just step back. If I get, 50 items in, it may be late on a Tuesday night. I'm not immediately going to sit and log every single item in Vendoo. I don't have that kind of time. It may be 2 or 3 days before I get to it. It may be 2 or 3 weeks sometimes before I get to those items. But what I do, when they come in, they go to a certain spot I have in my storage. I leave my invoice with it. And then I either will write on the box the total price if I'm going to average, or I'll just put little stickers on the items where I know like, hey, $40, $50, whatever, so that I can take my invoice and go do my accounting with it. So then if I take those items and I end up not actually photographing and listing in Vendoo, and I just am able to sell them right away on Whatnot on a Monday morning show, I still have an average price. So what I do is make one listing in Vendoo. I put Whatnot and the date for my title of the item. I skip way down to the item cost and item sales, and I'll put in the total amount of cost and the total amount of sales for that show. Mark it as sold on Whatnot. So I'm not doing individual items. I'm kind of listing everything I sold in that show, all my random stuff, as one item in Vendoo. Works really great. The other thing about it is it has really good reporting. Mary says, it sure as her soap starts my day. Look at everybody is talking about Every Worker's Passion, y'all. Her soap. So go check it out if you haven't. I'm telling you, it really is that good. I used to use like Cetaphil or whatever on my face every day, and I quit using that like harsh chemical stuff and started using Leslie soap. My skin has not felt this great in a long, long time. Just saying. Any other questions on inventory? It's probably one of the most confusing things, but it doesn't really have to be. It's really simple. Again, there's only 4 things you need to track. Figure out the best way for you and what you buy to track those things. What's your starting point? What's coming in? What's going out? You don't even need to track your ending. That's just kind of a formula there. So that's all you need to track, what comes in and what goes out. So you just find the method that works for you and be consistent with it, whether it's per item, averaging cost. Another way to do it. If you are sitting here now going, geez, I haven't done this at all. I'm not really sure. I need to start somewhere. If that's you right now, we're halfway through the year. Take a look at June. Go back and look at your account. Thank you so much, Extended Grace Shop. That is so sweet of you. I appreciate that. So we're in June. We're in July. Go back for your first 6 months. You know what your starting was. January 1st, how much inventory did you have? Either it's 0 because you just started, or it's some number that was on your tax return. So look at that 6 months and say what came in that 6 months. Look at how many items you sold on Whatnot. Divide that number by that many items. First of all, sorry, let me take a step back.
Thank you.
What did you spend in the first 6 months? How much do you have sitting on your shelves right now? Okay, and I'm talking somebody who's probably a little bit smaller. If you have a warehouse, this method's not going to work for you. But if you need to play catch up and you can kind of go through and look in your shed or your spare room and say, yeah, I have about 100 items here for sale. You can figure out how many items you have, how many items you sold, divide that total by how much you spent, and you get a per item cost, right? Let me do another giveaway. You can do a per item cost. We have another giveaway going. This one is for a couple of early 1900 postcards. And then you have a per item cost. That's what you can use moving forward. So it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to make sense. Supplies are automatically an expense. Do you deduct the full amount even if there are some left in after the end of the year? So if we're talking supplies versus inventory, two separate things in the way I'm looking at it. So when you say supplies, I'm assuming this is not your inventory, your stuff for sale. These are bubble wrap, boxes, any supplies you have, paper, pens that you may need to use, packing materials, yes. Yes, that is an expense. That expense happens immediately. You do not need to figure it out. Now, if we go back that for tax purposes, if we go back to accounting, let's stop and think about accounting again. For most of us, doing a cash basis accounting, that means the minute you spend that money, it becomes an expense, is fine. Our businesses aren't big enough. Most of us, it's okay to do that. There's cash and there's accrual for accounting. Accrual takes into consideration things that may not have happened yet, such as at the end of the year, I send somebody an invoice, they're going to pay me. They don't pay me till January. I send the invoice December 20th. They don't pay me until January 15th. I accrue that income. I count that income even though I don't got that money. That's accrual. You've used some type of electricity in December, but you don't pay the electric bill till January. You can take that electricity expense as an expense. You accrue that expense. For most general purposes, for what we're doing here on Whatnot, you do not need to do that. However, that is GAAP accounting, which GAAP is capital GAAP. It's an acronym for Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. Accrual accounting is all that's acceptable. What does that mean to you? In your general course of business, it means absolutely nothing. Don't waste your time thinking about it. When it will become important, if Whatnot is your only job, or not just Whatnot, but reselling is your primary profession, you're not getting a W-2, you don't work for somebody else. Your income comes from your Whatnot, your reselling business, and you want to go get a loan. You want to go to a bank and get a loan. They're going to ask for a set of financial statements. Those financial statements have to be in compliance with GAAP. It has to be GAAP compliant. That means that at that point, you're going to have a bookkeeper or an accountant or somebody to turn those financial statements into something you can use for a loan for a bank. Other than that, if you are just doing your accounting for your purposes to make good decisions, to know where you've been, make decisions on where you're going, don't worry about accrual accounting. So I kind of went on that tangent because supplies are one of those things that could fall into that. So I just want to kind of just make you aware that there's that caveat. If you are using your business as your source for income, what if you do this for, like say, let's just take this scenario. I'm working for somebody else. Let's pretend before Whatnot, I'm working for somebody else. I want to buy a house. What do they ask you when you go to buy a house? Please show me your proof of income. Give me the last 3 months of your pay stubs, right? All right. Now take that scenario and say, all I do is resell. I don't have pay stub. Most of us are not paying ourselves on a payroll system where we're actually issuing payroll. I don't have pay stubs, right? So the only way to prove to them, besides bank statements, is a set of financial statements. So just kind of keep that in mind, that if you're one of those people who want to take this to a full-time business, it doesn't just affect what you're doing and how that money comes in. It really affects everything in life as far as getting loans and stuff. You take your accounting kind of to the next level when you get to that point. So I got crumbs on here and it's driving me crazy. Let's see. Okay, I'm just checking to see if there's any other questions. So let's talk about expenses for a minute. We've talked about Schedule C. We just had a question about supplies. Good morning, Natural State of High. What kind of expenses can you take? I went down the Schedule C and just kind of wrote the list here. So we'll just talk high level about some of these. We talked about cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold, technically, it is an expense, but the way that it kind of works is you have all the money that came in, right? This is all that big old number. Everybody says, I made $40,000 in 6 months, right? Okay, it's that number. That's your revenue. Then you have your cost of goods sold underneath it. That's what it cost me to sell this stuff, right? That's the inventory that I paid for. So then you get gross profit. Let's see who's going to win some vintage postcards. Desiree Martinez, you're going to get some vintage postcards. Thank you so much. So that's your gross profit. Your gross profit, all it is I got my revenue minused out that inventory expense, what it cost me to sell that stuff, right? Then you get all your other expenses. And this is where you hear people saying, oh, that's a write-off. That's a write-off. Have a good day, Extending Grace. I hate the term where people say, oh, that's a write-off. I can do this because that's a write-off. You know why I hate that? Because it's misleading in the sense that it is a write-off. Yes, you can deduct a lot of this on taxes, but it's an expense to your business too. Because it's a write-off doesn't mean it's not money coming out of your pocket. I go back to, I have two circles. Thank you for your purchase from the bin. You have your accounting circle and your tax circle. So yeah, it's a write-off over here for your tax circle. Yay, great, I pay less taxes. I also just created an expense on my accounting circle, right? So Kitten Lady Rescue, I'm in Texas. They estimate taxes for comptroller. Whatnot had my resale certificate for $12K before they started not taxing me. I'm not sure what you're saying. Explain a little bit more. Hold on, let me read it again. My estimate taxes for comptroller. Oh, they estimate your taxes. You're in Texas. They estimate your, well, they don't have state taxes in Texas, so I'm not sure what you're talking. Explain this a little bit more because I'm just not reading it correctly. And then I'll try to address it if I can understand. Whatnot have my resale certificate for $12K. Yeah, you're going to need to explain a little bit more. So when I hear the term, oh, it's a write-off, I cringe because some people, they have it in their head like it's free money. Like people think, oh, it's a write-off, so I can just spend that money because it's free money. No, this is your money. This is reducing your profit at the end of the day. So be careful. We have two goals when we're running a business, right? To make as much money as we can, because we're not doing this just to be in the hole. We're doing this because we need the money for something. So we want a lot of money on this side, on the accounting side. But then on the tax side, we want a little bit of money because we want to pay the least amount of taxes. Let's face it, that's everybody. That's me. Nobody sits here and goes into business and says, I want to make a lot of money so I can pay a lot of taxes. It's just not like that. So you have these competing things. I want to make a bunch of money here, but I want to pay a little bit of taxes here. Those two things don't go together, right? So it's a way of, how do I make a lot of money in the best way possible to reduce my taxable income? And that's why you need a good accountant or CPA. Don't spend all your profits to keep from paying taxes. Exactly. That's it right there. Don't spend all your money. Don't spend $1 to save 10 cents. Not worth it. But what can we spend money on? Okay, hold on. Let's see if we can get this. Reseller taxes. Whatnot charges taxes on $12K. I asked why. They get it from the comptroller or something. I was buying inventory. Oh, so you have you have like a tax exempt certificate, I'm guessing, and they charge taxes. So I'm guessing, yes. Okay, so they still charge sales tax. That's something you're gonna have to talk to Whatnot about. If Whatnot accepts your resale certificate and they're still charging you taxes, I don't know why they would do that, but yeah, unfortunately, it's not something I can help with. Yeah, that does seem odd, unless maybe it was the time they took to upload your information or something. I don't know. But you do bring up a good point. When we talk taxes, y'all, and this may seem rudimentary to some of you, but there's people out here who this is brand new to them. There's sales tax. Sales tax is usually controlled by your county and your state. Whatnot charges sales tax on every transaction. We as resellers, as sellers on Whatnot, we don't have anything to do with it. Whatnot handles it. They remit the sales tax on our behalf. Then you have your income tax. That's on you. Whatnot doesn't handle your income tax. They do nothing with your income tax. Should you get a tax exempt certificate? So that is really up to you. If you're buying a lot and reselling it, you could. You will have to. There's reporting requirements for most states. I don't know what every law in every state is. I know just a handful of the specific state laws. Okay, and so Unicorn Dust Designs, perfect. So that's what we're talking about when they say if you have a tax ID number or a resale certificate. So these are two different things. You usually need one to get the other. So let's start with your resale certificate. If you resell merchandise, when you can go to your state and you can apply for a tax exempt license or certificate. This means that when I go to Goodwill, if they accept that, I won't have to pay the sales tax on that item. Because right now, if I go to Goodwill, first of all, somebody's already bought it, paid sales tax, gave it to Goodwill. I go pay sales tax on the item in my state, I don't know, 7% or something. I pay 7% sales tax. Then I sell it. Whoever buys it from me on whatnot pays sales tax on it again. To not repeatedly pay sales tax on the same item as a reseller, I can apply to be exempt from that. So I prove to the state that I'm reselling these items. There's certain rules. They vary state by state. And then I do not have to pay sales tax. I get a little certificate, exemption certificate that I have to put on file with the various places that I purchase from. A lot of your auction houses will accept your resale certificate and not charge you sales tax. Do you have to have that? No. I'm 2 years into almost 2 years, 18 months or so into whatnot. I don't have a resale certificate. Why? Sales tax isn't a huge expense to me at the amount of inventory I buy. It's not a large expense to me at the moment. And the filing requirements where I would have to file quarterly sales tax, a return with the state or a reporting with the state is not worth my time. I don't do it. But that doesn't mean it's not right for everybody. Could I save myself a little bit of money each year? Probably. But I'm at the point where that's an immaterial amount and not worth me looking at it right now. Now, the EIN is an employer identification number. Thank you for your purchase from the bin. An EIN is an employer identification number. You get that from the IRS. That is basically saying, look, I'm a sole, and you can get an EIN as any type of legal entity. As a sole proprietor, you do not have to have an EIN. All it is a number that replaces your Social Security number for business purposes. So as a sole proprietor, I have no legal structure, it's just me doing business. I can go to irs.gov, in their search bar, put apply for EIN, our employer identification number, and it's online. You apply for this number. And then when you're doing business, if you go to a bank and you set up a business bank account as a sole proprietor, you can use your EIN number versus your Social Security number. It's a way just to make some separation. It's not required, but that's what your EIN is. Now, if you're going to go then back to that sales exemption certificate, most states that I'm aware of require the EIN to apply for the exemption certificate. But in general, I would have been embarrassed. In general, you don't have to have an EIN. Now, if you form a legal structure, if I form an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, whatever it may be, then yes, you do need to get an EIN because that's the Social Security number for the business. Is the exemption paperwork through the IRS or the state? The exemption paperwork should be through your state. That's handled on a state-by-state basis. And then depending on where you live, there may be county exemptions too, so you need to check into your county. So I used to live in Florida, and it was just through the state. In Pennsylvania, I think I would have to go through the state, and we have specific like counties that I would need to look at. Don't know if I need an exemption or not. I've never dug in that deep. You're very welcome. Am I missing any questions? Can you explain what stores need up above that? What is the cost of shipping goods? Is the cost of shipping the goods you buy to sell an expense? Yes, it is. When you pay for shipping, that's a legit expense to your business. I offer free shipping. All of my shows have free shipping. Whatnot charges me, that's an expense. So that's a bottom line expense. So when I say bottom line, let's go back to that, how your Schedule C looks. You have your revenue, your cost of goods sold, that's your inventory that you sell, gross profit, then all your expenses, all these bottom line expenses. So that's that. Your shipping is absolutely 100% an expense. Some of the other expenses, advertising. Do you guys pay? I did them for a little bit. I quit doing them. You know what? Let me do another giveaway real quick before I start talking a whole bunch. This time, let's see. What are we going to give away this time? Oh, this one's cool. This is a little like a tea bath bomb. So we're going to give that one away. Green tea bath bomb. Advertising. So do you go into people's shows and you do the sponsored promo? That's an advertising expense. That 10, 15, 20 bucks put it down as advertising. So Southern Charm, when we buy something and pay shipping, is that part of cost of goods sold? Yes, because you're paying for that. That's the total cost of that item to get to you. I would include that as cost of goods sold. Now, you could put it down as a bottom line expense. That's fine too. There's some gray areas in accounting and the tax situations, but for me, a cost of goods sold is anything you pay to acquire that item and to improve that item in order to sell it is the true definition of your cost of goods sold. So the expense or the money you pay to acquire and improve for selling is everything you would add into your cost of goods sold. Expenses include mileage equals round trip to and from the post office and local pickup location, not your business address. Correct. So expenses including mileage. So when we're talking mileage, if you work out of your home, which a lot of us do, anywhere I go for a business purpose, let me clarify, I can track in my mileage as a business expense, that mileage. If I own a business location, my commute from my home to my business location is not an expense. It's not deductible. That's my commute. That's no different than when you work for somebody else and you leave home in the morning and you drive to an office or to wherever you work at. That's not deductible. So the same type of rules apply when we're looking at Schedule C expenses. Just joined, missed out. What type of exemption were you discussing? We were discussing a sales tax exemption, which you would get through your state if you want. It's not mandatory. Get a Schedule C and it lists them all. Exactly. Let me just kind of show you all real quick. Now, I focus on a Schedule C. We're going to bring this up real quick so I can show you in a second here. Right? It'll go on the screen. I focus on a Schedule C because most of us on Whatnot operate as a sole proprietor. When you operate on a sole proprietor, this form right here is what gets attached to your 1040. So you can see up there in the very top corner, it's a little bit small. Let's see if I can make it. There we go. It says Schedule C 1040. So you know this goes onto your personal tax return. You fill out all your business information. It talks about income. You're going to put all your income in there. And look at that. It says income and then your cost of goods sold to get down to your gross profit. Mileage tracker we love. I'm jotting that down so we can come back to that question. Thank you for asking. And then if you go down a little bit further, thank you so much. I appreciate that. If you go down just a little bit further, you have all of your expenses. So this is what Kitten Rescue was like. Kitten Rescue Lady. I'm sorry, am I getting your name right? Let me go back and look. I think I am. Where is it? Kitten Lady Rescue. I got it backwards. Kitten Lady Rescue was saying is if you go to the Schedule C, you can see a list of everything you can deduct. Advertising, your vehicle expenses, depreciation stuff we're not going to talk about today. Interest, if you have loans, office expenses, supplies, taxes. And then my favorite one, see right here, line 27A, other expenses. That's my favorite line because that's all the stuff that's not listed that you can still deduct. All right, let's close that out. So if you're not sure what you can deduct, go to irs.gov. In their search bar, put Schedule C, and you can get a blank copy of the Schedule C. That's all I did to get this. And you can look and see like this whole list of stuff. Can you clarify? My CPA always asks for the total amount of my product I have left in stock. Usually if it's a lot, I will pay more in taxes. Yes, so Unicorn Dust Design. So this goes back to inventory. So this is what we were talking at the beginning. Your inventory consists of 4 parts. Your starting inventory, what you added into inventory, what you took out, and then the ending. What you took out is your cost of goods sold. That's what you can expense on your taxes. Everything you still have left is not an expense because we go back to, I have $1. Oh, real quick, who is that? Sadie's, I missed the name. Sadie Cat's Curiosities. You're going to get a tea bath bomb. Thank you for coming to the show. So if we go, I have $1. Pretend this is a dollar bill. This is an asset. I give somebody this $1, they give me this pen. This pen is now my inventory. I'm going to sell this someday. This isn't an expense. Then I sell it and I get money. What I paid for that pen then is an expense. So everything you have left in your inventory at the end of the year is not an expense to your business. This is why, people, this is why stores have huge clearance sales at the end of their years. They want to get rid of their inventory to move that money as an expense so their profit looks lower for tax purposes. Thank you so much, Unicorn Dust Designs. Said it's because of the way she files taxes. She's just filing them the right way, because if you look at your Schedule C, it's going to ask you that information. So she's just filling it out properly. So I'm glad you've got a good accountant then. Let's see, did I miss a question? Let's go back up here. The mileage question. Okay, a mileage tracker. Y'all, so the question in the chat from your secondhand stash, does anybody have a good mileage tracker? If you do, please answer. This is not, yes, it's Zoe's Treasures chat show, but I am not every single answer here. I will give you my thoughts and opinions, but if you guys know stuff, y'all are smart. Put your answers in there. Mile IQ, Unicorn Dust Designs has Mile IQ. I know there are quite a few that hook up to your phone to make it easy, because how many of us really don't have our phone with us all the time, right? So you jump in your vehicle, hit start, and it will start tracking for you, and you hit end. I honestly forget to do that all the time. The other low-key method, a little notebook and a pen in your vehicle and jot down your mileage each time. That's very basic, low-key, but it works. You don't need anything more fancy than that. I personally recommend using the QuickBooks mileage feature. If you're already using QuickBooks, use the QuickBooks mileage feature. It's amazing because it runs in the background. And I literally, I'll see if I can show you here. I can't pull it up on my other end, but it just automatically runs in the background. That's going to take a second to go up. I put addresses in Google Maps and add to Google. There you go. And if you go to the same place a lot, let's face it, most of us are creatures of habit. We're going to the same post office, the same Goodwill, the same auction sites. For the most part, you can just put a little check mark how many times you went there and you Google the mileage. Do you have to track odometer readings? No, you do not have to track odometer readings. Oh, well, thank you so much, Sadie.
Thank you.
Let's see, hold on. Let me show you QuickBooks here. So we have a mileage tracker. This one's track trip. I don't want to track my trip. Does that run your battery down because it's always running in the background? No, I have not found that it runs my battery down. I'm trying to find mileage. Here we go. So I click on mileage and it just shows me every single trip that I've taken recently. And then I can swipe to make it personal or business. Either one. I just go through and swipe it one way or the other. And these are all the trips that I haven't logged yet. So usually at night in bed, I'll sit there and just swipe once a week maybe. To me, it's easy just because I'm forgetful and I won't write it down. I won't keep track. And it adds up to a lot. That's QuickBooks. So QuickBooks is a full accounting program, and it has that built into it. I love discounts. Let's see. My husband's saying you asked a question or made a comment, and I'm not saying it.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I love discounts. I appreciate that. I am swiping. So I am in QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks for my accounting. Not necessary, but one of the benefits of it is it has a mileage tracker that runs in the background. So this is some of the trips that I've taken recently. Every time I get in a vehicle, it turns on and it tracks where I'm going. Then I just go in, it tells me where I started, where I ended, and then I can go in and swipe either for business or personal, either way. And so it either adds it as an expense to my business, keeps track of my miles, or I say it's personal, don't track it. There is a monthly fee for QuickBooks. I want to say I pay like $30 a month, somewhere in there. I'd have to go look up the exact amount. Again, it's an accounting program, not necessary to do business on Whatnot. It is 100% not necessary. It depends on what volume your accounting is, how much time and effort you put into it, and if you want to use it or not. You can use a pencil and paper for your accounting and keep very good, accurate records with just a pencil and paper. Do you need to have a bookkeeper for reselling? They ask for $500 per month, and that is a lot for a side hustle. So shop. No, you don't have to have a bookkeeper if you're going to do it yourself. You need to keep books one way or the other. So your options are do it yourself. Maybe if you're married, sweet talk your spouse into doing it for you, or hire somebody to do it. Yeah, bookkeepers are expensive, and I agree with that. So hold on really quick. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read the questions and talk at the same time. I'm sorry, honey. You're trying to tell me something, and I do not understand what you're saying. Okay. Mile IQ is free. Okay, Unicorn Dust Designs. Mile IQ is free. So, yeah, I pay for QuickBooks. Mile IQ from Unicorn Dust Design says that it's a free app. And I know for a fact, if you go into your app store, if you're on iPhone, whatever the comparable thing on Android is, and you search mileage trackers, I bet there's going to be a whole list of them that come up. And you can evaluate and see which one works best for your unique situation. Let's go back to having a bookkeeper. I would suggest, you have to keep your books somehow. If you're not comfortable with it, yes, pay somebody. But you know what? It's not that hard. You track 3 things. 3 things is all you have to track. And it doesn't have to be a fancy system. What money's coming in, what money's going out, and the money going out, you kind of need to know the classification. Shipping supplies, shipping expense, telephone, whatever it may be, and your inventory. Those are the 3 main things you have to track in order to keep somewhat decent books. That's what your accountant's going to ask for at the end of the year. Chatty Wampus, you can rewatch us on YouTube, so you don't need to buy anything to watch us. You can always go to our YouTube. There you go. My husband put it up there. All of our shows are there. You can go back and watch any of our chat shows. Let's see. What does it mean if I use method money coming in and method coming out versus tracking costs in each item sold? Cash basis accounting. So you can do cash basis accounting. It's not GAAP, which is a generally accepted accounting principle. Cash basis accounting will not create a set of financial statements that would be accepted by a bank. So if your plans, if you're thinking like, hey, I do this full time, I'm going to grow, maybe I'm going to buy a house, maybe I need to get a bank loan, anything like that, you're going to need a bookkeeper or an accountant to do a set of financial statements for you. Do they need to do it every month? Absolutely not. But before you go to the bank or something with that, you're going to need financial statements that comply with GAAP. In the meantime, cash basis accounting is just that. You're putting all the money coming in and you're putting all the money coming out. It just means that you're not applying some of those matching principles and some of the other accounting principles. You're purely looking at it on a cash flow type basis. And then we have Autism Crew. I love QuickBooks Online. I use it so yeah, we saw that. We'll be able to rewatch. Yes, we talked about that. Kind of catch up. And where do we find it later? Oh, you're talking to Tenacity Rich. Okay. If you don't, you go to YouTube. Yeah, this isn't available on Whatnot. Unfortunately, you do have to buy something to rewatch it on Whatnot. But again, if you have YouTube, you don't have to buy anything to watch it. It's free on YouTube. I do not offer bookkeeping services. My day job is for a global accounting firm, and part of my agreement prohibits me from doing outside services, particularly because I work in auditing where we have to be independent of many, many companies. So I am prohibited through my employer from providing tax services, accounting services, stuff like that. I can't be on a board of directors and sign checks or be responsible for check keeping. So there's a lot of things I cannot do because I work for a global accounting firm. Let's see. We hired a bookkeeper and CPA on Wednesday. Awesome. Congratulations, Lysandra or Tony, whoever's on this morning. Yeah, you know what, you guys? A good bookkeeper or a CPA is worth their weight in gold. I'm telling you, it's not just keeping up with this on a monthly basis. Because remember, you have your accounting bubble. That's your month-to-month, your day-to-day stuff of accounting. Then you have that tax bubble. There is a very slight overlap of those two bubbles. Knowing how to merge them and knowing how to maximize your revenue while decreasing your tax expense, that money you're paying for is going to save you a ton in the long run. Yes, home office expense. Okay, let's do this one first. Let's go to, where is a good place to find a reputable bookkeeper? I would start by looking through like Google CPAs in your area. A lot of CPA firms have a division in the CPA firm that they have bookkeepers, that maybe they're not CPAs yet and their hourly rates are a little less expensive. So I mean, the rates are going to vary wildly across the country. California, New York are probably far more expensive than Idaho, right? However, in general, a good CPA is going to cost you $300 to $600 per hour, whereas a bookkeeper may be, $50 to $150, maybe $200 per hour on average. Again, your location is really going to dictate those fees. Home office expense, yes. Now, this is one of those expenses that is a tax expense, not necessarily a bookkeeping expense. But you can, if you use an area of your home exclusively for business. What is it? It's primarily and exclusively, I forget the exact words the IRS uses, but there is, if you're using an area of your home exclusively for business, you can either take actual expenses based on the square footage of that, like your mortgage or your rent, your utilities for that space, or the IRS also offers a simplified method where it's just a very simple formula. Again, it's on your Schedule C. When we get closer to tax time, I will go through line by line and show you exactly how to calculate that. But you do. Let's talk about exclusive use of your home office. I have a basement here. My home office, or my whatnot home office, I have my basement curtained off, and this section is maybe, 15 by 15. And that's my square footage that I use for whatnot, plus some storage space on the other side of my basement. It doesn't have to be a full room to itself. If you have a bedroom and you use half of that bedroom, well, the one half is a bed and it's your guest room, and the bathroom, yes, because we like to sell from the bathroom. However, if your bathroom is not used for other purposes and is just part of that home office, you can legitimately take it. But if you have a guest room and like one half of it's like an extra bed and a dresser for guests, and the other half is kind of your inventory, just take the half that's your inventory. So it doesn't, just because you don't have a full room, like that's solely whatnot room or reselling room, doesn't mean you can't bifurcate the space and area that you use and use that as part of your home office. Now, this is where a good CPA, internet expenses, there's all kinds of stuff. Yes, you can include the garage. Thank you for your purchase from the bin. You absolutely can consider the garage in that space. Thank you. Now, this is where a good CPA is going to come in handy. When you start to deduct parts of your business, because what are you doing? Using your home office means you're reducing your taxable income. It means I'm getting a tax benefit right now for 100 square feet of my home. I don't have to pay taxes on it. I'm using that over and over every year. It's considered an expense, reduces my taxable income. And this is where I'm saying the difference between I want high revenue but low taxable income. In my accounting records, I don't consider home office. In my tax, I do. So I can have a higher income and lower my higher income for accounting, lower my income or my taxable liability by using things like mileage, home office expense, hiring your kids. There's some other things that you can use it for. Your CPA expenses, your bookkeeper, those are all deductible expenses. Everything you pay in order to run that business. I totally lost my train of thought. We're talking about the garage. I lost my train of thought, y'all. Sorry. But yes, you can use your home office. What I was saying, this is where a good CPA is going to come in handy, is there are some specific rules that if you eventually sell your home, if you're a homeowner and you're deducting some of that, when you go to sell your home, and again, a lot of this is based on income, tax bracket, a ton of IRS rules, portions of that may need to be taken into consideration. So you may need to look back at future tax years and say, okay, I already deducted this much of this home from all my home business expense, home office expense. So this is where a good CPA will come in, a tax CPA, to really analyze your situation. It's not something that I can. Oh, there's a YouTube. Thank you for asking, and there it is. It's not something. It's too complicated without knowing all facts and circumstances that I can give here. But absolutely, your home insurance expense. So if you're doing mileage, the piece of your vehicle insurance is already included in the mileage. But if you're doing with mileage, you can use actual expense, or there's a simplified method too, so you can use one or the other. Donations, yes and no, Kitten Lady Rescue. Donations on a Schedule C are not deductible on a Schedule C. They're deductible as a personal donation. Because remember, if you're a sole proprietor, I'm filing a Schedule C. This is just a form attached to my personal tax return. So when I donate something, it's not really a business donation. It's a personal donation that goes on a Schedule A. I have a rental property. Can I use a room in that house as long as it's not rented? I also use internet utilities, business expenses. Yes, you can, but then it wouldn't be a home office expense because you're already deducting it as a rental company, rental expense. So if it's not rented at all, then it wouldn't really qualify as a rental property. Like if it's not rented the whole year, you're already deducting. It's already a different type of expense. You're going to file, that still falls under a Schedule C. And I would beg to differ, Holly, that if you have a rental property and you're doing a resale business, that you would be filing 2 Schedule Cs because the types of businesses are so different from each other. Generally, a Schedule C would encompass a business of similar business interests, generally. I was going to ask that my CPA said I cannot claim donations on business, but I can on personal. Exactly. Yeah, when you're a sole proprietor, you can't claim them on your Schedule C. They don't deduct your expense dollar for dollar. They go on a Schedule A, just like if you didn't even have a business, they go on a Schedule A. So I don't have to keep up with my, so I don't have to keep up with my mileage because you don't have to. Nifty, thrifty, Brittany, you don't have to claim mileage expense at all. However, what are we up to? I didn't look it up this morning. Are we up to like 68 cents or something a mile? That's deductible? I don't know about you. I live in the country. It takes me 30 to 40 minutes to get anywhere I'm going. I'm in July, I'm already at like over $4,000 in mileage expense. So it adds up really quick. It's well worth it. Again, 70, is it 70 cents? My husband's looking it up in the background. It changes every year. They usually increase it just a tad bit each year. So think about it like this. This is one of those things you want high revenue and low tax, right? That's our goal, is to make as much money but pay as little bit of taxes. Mileage is one of those things that separates that. So let's just say they're even. Whatever revenue you pay, you're paying tax on. I want to increase my revenue while I decrease my tax. One of the ways to do that is to claim mileage, because mileage it's money going out. I got to buy gas and stuff, but it's not really in your bookkeeping. It's on your taxable income. So it reduces your taxable income. I am a CPA. Thank you so much for asking. I'm going to, Unicorn Dust Designs, I see your question. I'm coming right back to it. I am a CPA. I used to be licensed in Florida, Georgia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. However, I dropped Florida and Georgia because I no longer practice there. So I'm licensed in 2 states. I've been a CPA for going on 20 years now. Let's see. Okay, why can't we claim a car payment on taxes when we use that vehicle for work? Never understood that. Because your car is an asset, and that's debt. So you can't claim debt payments. So when you buy a car, it was that same concept of, I have my dollars, and even though I don't technically have the dollars because I'm taking out a loan, right? What is a loan? A bank is basically giving you those dollars. You just don't see them in your hand. They're taking those dollars and holding them, and they're giving you a car instead. The car is the asset. So that's not deductible. The interest on that car payment, if you're taking actual expenses and that car is used solely and primarily, or solely and exclusively, I forget the exact 2 words, for business, the interest on that loan is deductible. But that car payment is just debt, and debt's not deductible because it's an asset and a liability. It's not really an expense. Can you claim a percentage? A percentage of what? Oh, if you lease a car? yes, there is certain percentages you can claim for leasing a vehicle. So again, when you go to do your mileage, and I'm trying to look on it really quick, there's two different, there's actual and there's like a simplified method on mileage that you can claim. I am in my element. This is all the whole accounting and tax stuff. Do we claim whatnot income on our taxes? Michelle, that is my number 2 question. Y'all are just ticking them off here. All my questions I wrote down. So yes, you do. Any income, for Beauty, good morning. Any income you make needs to be claimed on your taxes. If you make $1, it's supposed to be claimed on your taxes. Now, I mean, when I first started reselling and I like sucked at it and I made $50, did I put it on there? Probably not. But yes, you do have to claim your whatnot income. Whatnot will send you a 1099 if you reach a certain threshold. And I actually wrote these thresholds down because the IRS is in the middle of a change on this. So in last year, in 2024, if you made more than $5,000 on whatnot, gross, they're going to send you a 1099K. That's just a tax form that tells you how much money you made on whatnot. You probably will get one from PayPal if you do sales through PayPal. You'll probably get one from the other sites if you made more than $5,000. This year for 2025, so the year we're in now, come the end of, I think they have to have them out by the end of February. If you make more than $2,500, whatnot and all these other sites that you're selling on will send you a 1099K, more than $2,500. In 2026, next year, that goes down to $600. So the IRS is in the middle of this kind of overhaul of stepping this down. A couple years ago, it was really, really high. Let me do another giveaway while we're talking. Let's see, what do I have here? I got all kinds of little goodies in here. Oh, this is for a pretty bird postcard. These are like, oh, look at that. So I love birds. Pretty bird postcard. This is going to be giveaway number 4? Just so I can mark it down. So just because you don't get a 1099 does not mean you do not file that Schedule C and file taxes. Eventually, the IRS will catch up to you. Eventually. You may get away with it for a few years, but eventually. So what if I didn't make $5K combined on any platform? Do you have to claim it? Yes, you do. The IRS says you have to claim all income. Now, whether you do it, that's up to you. I know people who don't. They're like, nope, if it doesn't reach this limit, I'm not doing it. The IRS says you're supposed to. My point of view is just follow the rules, because you know what? It's cheaper to follow the rules now than it is to get caught later and have to deal with everything that comes with that. Why are thresholds decreasing? I thought current focus was to make less income taxable. So the thresholds, this was actually decided quite a few years ago, that the threshold, so they've been decreasing it used to be 25,000. I think it's like it's been a 3 or 4 year program now. And it's just a threshold. This is all about accounting. This is all about reporting the income. It's not about making less taxable, because even if I make $100 and I don't get a 1099K, I'm supposed to claim that. I'm supposed to report and pay taxes on that $100. This is more about the business side of it and them having to report it. So when Whatnot issues this 1099K, here's what happens behind the scene. Whatnot they look through and they say, here's all of the millions of people who have sold on Whatnot. Well, I'm going to filter out for anybody who made for 2025, over $2,500. Then they get their list. They create the 1099Ks for them. A summarized version of that, along with a copy of that 1099K, is sent to the IRS in this big old electronic package. The IRS gets it. Those 1099Ks have your social security number on it, or your EIN if you've established an EIN. Then you just get your individual 1099K. You're supposed to reference that 1099K on your tax return, on your Schedule C. You actually have to list it. There's a place where you list your revenue and you list who it's from. Eventually, when you send your tax return into the IRS, their computer systems in the background are matching that up. They're going to say, hey, Bob Smith, social security number 123456789, has this on their 1040. And look at Whatnot said Bob Smith, that social security number, got some money. Oh, wait, they didn't report it. It's not there. Red flag for an audit. However, if they see it and it matches up, all is good. You've done your duty. Let's see. Why? So, and the threat, it's just a matter of reporting. Honestly, what was happening is the IRS was missing out on a way to match those numbers up, and they were missing out on opportunities to catch people who were not reporting their income. At the bottom line, it just goes back to being more fiscally responsible. I'm not against it. Any business would, the IRS is doing what they should be doing. They're being more responsible. Let's see, baby needs shoes. What did I miss here? So what is the best software app spreadsheet to use to keep track of expenses, revenue? I feel, I recommend QuickBooks, but it's not absolutely necessary. I like it, but I just started using QuickBooks, and full disclosure here, in January of this year. As a CPA, I used nothing. I used Excel. I didn't use anything fancy until I felt my business was at a point where Excel became too cumbersome for me to use, and that it would be a time saver for me to switch to something else. I would recommend QuickBooks. It's well known. They have decent customer support, but they have a lot of features that make things easier. However, I've heard of Reseller Genie. I've never used it personally, but I know that's out there. I've heard other people love it. You can use a pen and paper. You need to find what works for you. The key here, don't get some complicated system that you're never going to log into because you're like, oh my God, I just don't want to deal with that program again. Don't get it. Get something that works. At the end of the day, you just want to make sure you're tracking it in a way that makes sense for you. I don't do mileage by writing it down because I would forget every single time I got in the car. It didn't work for me. I had to find something that did the mileage in the background for me. So it's really not what's best, it's what works for you. What percentage should I set back each month for taxes? Great question. Yeah, I always forget to write it down. That's why I couldn't. Missy's used QuickBooks for 20 plus years. It's just such a well-known one. And added bonus for QuickBooks, and I'm not a representative, y'all. I just use it. Barry, you are going to get this awesome bird postcard. Thank you so much for being in the show. Added bonus for QuickBooks. They have where whatever version you're in, like it's all on the cloud. So you can assign a CPA or an accountant sign in where they can't write checks, they can't like spend your money, but they can access your records right in QuickBooks and download what they need. Saves you time at tax time of printing reports, grabbing receipts, because I'll tell you what, you get a box of receipts and you take it to your CPA, they may not laugh in your face, but behind your back, they're going, they're counting their dollars because that's hours of work you were paying for to have a very expensive CPA dig through receipts. So the more organized you can be, the less money you're going to spend come tax time with a CPA. Notes in your phone. There you go. I mean, as long as you have a way to keep it and can export it into some way for your CPA. What is it? Waze? A Wave. So we have a Wave is an amazing app. There you go for tracking expenses, links to your bank account, and it's free. So yeah, I'm sure if everybody in here put what they used, we would have a whole variety. So again, I don't necessarily recommend one over the other. I use QuickBooks because I've used it for a million years now, and I'm familiar with it. It works for me. I like the app. I like the added on features it provides me. What percentage should I send back for taxes? Let's talk about this because this is a really good question. And I keep getting sidetracked by other questions. Yeah, I use QuickBooks for mileage, but I'm sure other people can put things in here for mileage. Yes, Southern Charm, good point. QuickBooks is also owns TurboTax, and they integrate into each other. So you can use TurboTax. It'll just pull the stuff right in. And then for taxes. Okay, so how much should you put aside for taxes depends on your individual situation. Number one, are you working for somebody else? Do you get a W-2? Are you an employee at some other place? If you are, a lot of your taxes are going to be taken care of through that W-2, through your employer, right? How to figure out how much you need to put aside. It may be nothing. It could be a lot of money. It depends on how much you're making. The way to figure that out is you take your tax return from last year and you go to line 24 on your standard 1040. You go to line 24. Let's see if we can find it here. Let me see if I can show you exactly what this looks like on your standard 1040 so we can. All right. Okay, so this is a Form 1040. I just got the PDF off of the IRS website. All the basic information, blah, 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 blah. I go down to page 2, right here, line 24. It says, this is your total tax. Let's see, so right there, line 24. This is your total tax. You go over, and there's going to be a number in that box next to 24, okay? So we can take that down. That's what you're looking for. That is your tax liability. That is how much money you owed the IRS at the end of the year. Now, underneath that, if you're a W-2, if you're an employee for somebody else, they would have withheld federal income tax out of your paychecks. And then hopefully you put that number in underneath that, and maybe you paid a little bit more and you get a refund. But that line 24, if that was a 0, if you owed 0 tax because of whatever your situation was last year, not did you get a refund, not did you have to pay, but line 24, your tax liability, if that was a 0 and you're a U.S. citizen or a resident alien, and that tax period covered the full 12 months, don't worry about it for this year. You don't have to pay, you don't have to put anything aside. You're not going to get penalized. You don't have to make estimated tax payments. All right. Now, for everybody else who that number wasn't a 0, if you're looking at your tax liability, and you're a W-2 employee, because it's a different situation. So let's talk about the first one. I work for somebody else and I do whatnot. I look at that tax liability. I look at what I paid in through my paychecks. I'm either going to overpay and get a refund, or I'm going to underpay. If my tax liability, I expect this year to be $1,000 or more, line 24. If I expect line 24 to be $1,000 or more than what it was last year, I need to start thinking about who's going to pay that $1,000 of tax? Where is that going to come from? If I'm a W-2 employee, all I need to do is to ask my employer to take a little bit extra out of my paychecks. And then you don't have to worry about paying estimated taxes or putting money away for taxes if you are an employee. Okay? So take that 1,000, divide it by the number of paychecks you get, and that's how much extra you would want to put in to cover that. If you expect that line to be $1,000 or more. Why? How would you get to that $1,000? How do you know that, right? Here I am, like you're saying, okay, but I'm not a CPA. How do I figure out if that's going to be $1,000 or more? Take your income, how did I put that? I wrote some notes on here. Hold on. I wrote notes to explain this because this is kind of, take your income and you subtract any refundable credits. So you take your income, you subtract your standard deduction, child tax credit, all of that. And when I say income, how much you make from your W-2, how much you expect what is your net profit from whatnot, or your total reselling activities. Whatever that number is, say it's $50,000. I'm going to deduct whatever my standard deduction is based on if I'm married, single, head of household, whatever that standard deduction is. I'm going to deduct that. And then I'm going to look at any of the other refundable credits, child tax credit, things I normally will qualify for, deduct that, and that will give me a ballpark of what my tax liability will be. If that tax liability is $1,000 or more, greater than what you paid last year, increase what your employer is taking out. Now, if you're not employed, this is what you do. You're whatnot. You resell. I don't have somebody taking taxes out of a paycheck. You're going to need to probably pay estimated taxes. If that amount is $1,000 or more, greater than last year, you're going to need to pay more in estimated taxes. Look at your tax liability, look at that same number, and figure out the ratio of that number to your income, and you can figure out how much percent. So if that tax liability is 10% of my income, I should be putting aside 10%. If that tax liability, line 24, is 20% of my income, I should be putting away 20%. Okay? Now let's go back to, I want a lot of money, but I want to pay a little bit of taxes. You only pay taxes on net profit, the bottom line, after you take out all those expenses. So again, revenue minus your cost of goods sold equals gross profit down here. So you have a gross profit number. Then you take out all these expenses. Then you get net, that net number. Some of those expenses are these like Non-bookkeeping expenses. This is how you make a division between revenue and taxable tax expense. Home office expense, mileage, being creative, talking to your CPA. I pay my daughter for her services tax-free. Pay her $3,000 a year I can expense on my tax return. There's other ways to keep that high revenue and lower that expense. You'll hear in common language, oh, these are the loopholes. It's not really no loopholes. It's just utilizing the IRS tax laws in the most beneficial way. Doesn't matter what we do with the money from whatnot, like what kind of account we put it in. Lentro, I would suggest having a separate business account. It doesn't matter. No, the IRS isn't going to come after you. If you're a sole proprietor and you just have your money deposited into your checking or savings account, nobody's going to come after you. I recommend a business account because it's easier not to get caught up in the money mindset and to get confused with it. So if I see money coming in to my personal account and I'm like, oh, I just got an extra $500 from whatnot, and I go spending money, or I'm buying extra groceries, as humans, human nature, and I'm not saying everybody does this, but human nature is we tend to rise to what we have. I can easily spend it. Most people don't live at a set standard, a set means. Every time you get more money, we increase our standard of living. That's human nature. Now, I'm not saying across the board. I'm sure there's examples of a lot of people who budget very tightly and don't do this. But in general, as humans, the more money we have coming in, the higher we start raising our standard of living or our spending. So just that concept makes it difficult to differentiate money coming into a personal bank account. But there's nothing wrong. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't do it. Totally legal, totally fine to do it. But if you have a business account, it really makes you focus. Now, in all transparency, I had, because we don't really, me and my husband don't use our savings account like on a regular basis. So I'm like, okay, at the beginning of this, I'm just going to throw all my money into my savings account because I don't buy groceries. I don't pay bills out of it. I'm like, because I use that savings account so rarely, I'll be able to track business expenses easier. I went and opened up a bank account this year for just business. And honestly, it makes me think twice. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It makes me, notorious bag lady, thank you. It makes me think twice when I see my business account dwindling, like, oh, maybe I need to rethink some of my expenses. Where when it's mixed with personal, I don't have that trigger to, like that red flag for myself. If you buy a phone, can you write that off? Yes, you can. Particularly, you can write it off 100% if you use it 100% for whatnot. If you're using it for personal, come up with a reasonable, I use it 25% for personal, 75% for whatnot, and write off that percentage. Now, you're going to hear different trains of thought. People will be like, I bought this for business, I'm writing it off. I don't care if I make a personal phone call or two. If you're making 1 or 2 personal phone calls, fine. But how many people really have one phone just for business, just for whatnot, and one phone just for them? I mean, some people too. Like I've heard Green 13 say he bought phones just to use in the business. But in general, my thing is be honest, like with IRS, because someday if you're ever audited, if it ever comes back on you, it's so much cheaper just to do the right thing now than it is to try to fix it later. I am brand new with whatnot, and I have had no paperwork before. Then how do I know what to set back? Tenacity Ridge, I would look at your last year's tax return. That's really what everything is based on, is your last year's tax return. Now, if you're brand new and you're worried about it, put 15 to 20% away. What tax bracket are you in? Look at your tax return, figure out what tax bracket you're in. Again, take your total tax liability, line 24. What percentage of that to your income is it? And set that percentage aside. I don't see how it's legal for whatnot to do this. Say item sold for $1, shipping $213, taxes $41 total, sale $341. Yeah, they have to pay taxes. I don't think it's them. It's more the federal laws that make them do that. Doesn't matter what we do with the money from. Okay, so we talked about that. The more you make, the more you make, the more you spend. Exactly. They don't do the transaction fees on $1. They do the total sale. Yes. Baby needs shoes, separate bank account. There's a lot of taxing going on in a dollar sale. I mean, there's not really, there's only one taxing, but it's not just the dollar sale. It's the sale plus the shipping plus the sale plus the shipping is what you're taxed on. How do you account for giveaways received, earbuds as new inventory for sale? How do you account for giveaways received? Oh, so if you receive a giveaway and you turn around and put it like as something to sell, it didn't cost you anything. It's free. So it's all profit. It's free. Let me go back up to my husband's telling me I'm missing a question up here. A separate account, yes. To help you see if your business is actually covering your expenses, 100%. Yeah, Kit and Lady Rescue, I mean, that's just federal government. They're going to tax us on everything. It's the way it is. It sucks. But let's look at it like this. I've spent years, most recently, I'm in the audit world of auditing, but I'm going to do another giveaway real quick. You guys get that going before I start on another tangent. What are we going to do this time? Let's do another pumpkin spice sachet, nice, yummy smelling thing. I have spent years with people on their taxes. People complain, people don't want to pay a lot of taxes. Trust me, I have to write a check every year, and I'm like, I'm grumbling the whole time I have to write a check. But at the end of the day, the only reason you are writing a check to the IRS is because you made money. So you can solve it, don't make money. I don't know about you, but I'm here to make money. Like, I enjoy this. It's a social app. I enjoy the friends I'm meeting and making, but I'm here to make money. So the only reason you pay taxes is because you made money. Let's put that in the terms of whatnot. Shipping is not my favorite thing to do. But you know what? The only reason I'm in my back room shipping is because I made sales. And that's a good thing. It's the same concept. Yeah, but the sales tax, you're not paying the sales tax. You're talking about the fees. So we're not taxed on anything for the buyer. We're only taxed on the sale itself. And that comes on our income tax, and we get to take expenses off of that. The buyer pays sales tax on their thing. We're paid now that it's not taxed. We have our percentage that 2.9, is that what it is? The 2.9% we pay on that full amount. That's credit card processing fees. That's not even whatnot. That's like a pass through. That doesn't even go into their pocket. Should we keep track? Yes, tips are income. 100% tips are income. And they'll be included, the tips will be included on the 1099K that whatnot gives you. I don't know if they're separated out, if it's a separate number or not. I do not remember, but they are included on that 1099K, and they are taxable. This is quasi-political, but I resent taking no W-2 deductions and still having to pay more. Taking no W-2 deductions and still having to pay more. If you have zero deductions on your W-2, you're telling your employer to not pull federal withholding taxes out. At the end of the day, if you're making money, they're still going to calculate federal withholding taxes, so you're going to pay. It's not that you're paying more, it's that you're not paying it throughout the year, and you're paying it in one lump sum. We're not taxed on it. We have a fee for it. So I want to make that clear. We're not taxed on that total sale. The buyer's tax, the buyer pays sales tax. We're not taxed on it. We have a fee, that processing fee on the total sale, which is a different thing than a tax. That 2.9 is a processing fee that whatnot has agreed to with whoever processes the credit cards and the transactions in the background. So basically, whatnot collects it from us, they give it to whoever their contract is with. And actually 2.9%, I sell on 5 different platforms, and I find whatnot fees, well, I don't want to pay anything, I still find them pretty darn reasonable. So by the time I get, thank you, Southern Charm, I appreciate that. So by the time I get to measly whatnot income, I feel I was paid enough already. So by the time I get to measly whatnot, I feel I paid enough. But you're not paying tax. And by the time you get your whatnot income, like tax on seller fees. No, I don't. Go back and look. Kit Lady Rescue, I have a YouTube that explains all of the whatnot fees and how they take them out. Like I did this whole thing on the screen with the math and everything. We're not taxed on that. We get a 1099K that we have to put on our federal income tax that, then we take our expenses and we pay our own federal income tax on. We're not taxed through Whatnot on that. Yeah, and Semi was, you're not actually paying taxes on the Whatnot. Within the Whatnot system, we don't pay taxes within the Whatnot system. We pay taxes when Whatnot sends us a 1099-K at the end of the year and we file our tax return. The taxes you see in Whatnot, the fees you see in Whatnot, so let's start with the taxes. That's sales tax. That's on the buyer. And you're going to pay that if you go to Target, you pay sales tax. You go anywhere, you're paying sales tax. That's done at a state level, and state and county, depending on where you live, has sales tax. Sales tax is not federal tax, is not income tax, completely separate. It usually goes to the state and county to repair the roads, reduce gas prices, blah, 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 whatever they allocate it for in their budgets. That's sales tax. The fees, Creative Cry, you're going to get a pumpkin spice because it's almost that season, sachet. Thank you for being here. The fees we pay Whatnot, 8% and the 2.9%, and I know some categories have lower fees in general. That 8% goes to Whatnot for the services they provide, maintaining of the platform, the customer service until we all do it ourselves. Some of us do already. All the different features they have, like their accounting in the background. That 8% pays for us to have a platform to sell on. And the 2.9, I already said, isn't even Whatnot's money. That goes to process all the credit card stuff in the background, all how people pay us. So like in my point of view, they're necessary. I don't want to have to figure out how to take people's money and process a credit card. I'll gladly pay 2.9% to let Whatnot handle that for me. So can tips you give be an expense? Yes, they can. They can absolutely be an expense to a reasonable amount. There's some really intricate rules on that, but for the most part, I mean, if you're not spending thousands of dollars on tips, you're doing $5 here and there. They're absolutely an expense. Don't mind me. Yeah. Hey, look, no, Sam, I agree. I hate paying taxes too. But again, I go back to the concept of, and I used to tell my clients this when I did taxes for a living, before auditing. I used to tell them, look, the only reason you're paying taxes is because you made money. Be happy. People would invest. They would invest in stocks and bonds and then have a big tax bill at the end of the year because they had a lot of gains. They're like, hey, I didn't get any money, but my stock is going up. Well, yeah, you got all this money sitting over here. Your stock's going up. Be happy. Pay the tax. The only one making money at an antique booth is a building owner. Hold on. Creative Christ, thank you so much. You know what? I don't know anything. Don't say I don't know anything about antique booths. I haven't had one. It is like a dream of mine to own a booth. My husband keeps telling me it's a lot of work. Don't do it. But I've heard that a lot, that lately booth owners have been hit hard, but I don't know. Southern Charm, I think Whatnot fees are really good compared to having an antique booth. Oh, there we go. Okay, so and Southern Charm, as far as I know, has an antique booth. And you see a lot of antique booth owners here on Whatnot, either selling from their booths or they talk about their booths. So there must be something to it. There must be something if you see a lot of the antique booth owners here on Whatnot. Yeah. Let's see. I have given up doing single shows. So Sunshine, I have given up doing single shows. I am doing only raid trains from now on and have my items in the marketplace, in the market on here. Hey, if that works for you, one of the things that I think is so wonderful about Whatnot is that we can all create our businesses in the way that work best for us. Whatnot is so versatile. Like eBay is eBay. You list an item, we're all kind of the same. We're all equal, right? We're all kind of just putting an item out on eBay. Here on Whatnot, there's a multitude of tools. My last show, I think I named like 15 of them off the top of my head. Multitude of tools that you can use in combination and in different ways to create a business model that works for you. And there's no other platform that's offering this right now. This is the only platform. I'm not a Whatnot representative. I think it'd be kind of cool to be one of those people who get like the cool swag, like the pendants in the background. Whatnot, if you're listening, I want to be that person. But you can create a business that works for you. I got to be on Green 13 show and we were talking about this. His business model is completely different from mine. We're both successful on Whatnot in totally different ways. And I think that's totally cool. You have handmade people coming on here who don't have to, maybe they do, but they don't have to go to markets and sit there and set up and create all these tables and signage and beautiful displays. They can sell on Whatnot. They can make something and sell it on Whatnot. How wonderful is that? My marketplace. So Missy, I have heard that Whatnot is doing a lot of like promotions on Google, that if you Google things that like items you're looking for, that Whatnot is in the top of those searches recently. I haven't done it, but I've heard this from a few people that I really trust and respect what they say. The reason I Am 16 is a lot of work to put together a show only to have limited to no sales. Sunshine, sometimes, and hey, I get that. I'm getting up in age myself. It takes time. All I can say is, you know what? Some people are going to come on here. Maybe they have followings, maybe they don't, and they are going to knock it out of the park. Hi, for beauty, you are not 102. Some people are going to come on and knock it out of the park and have 100 followers or 300 followers in every show by the time they're 6 months in. But that's the exception. Honestly, I'm going to say that's the exception. And I know we all gravitate towards that because as human nature, we want that hope. We want to be like that. A lot of us have been on here for a long time, over and over and over. I was probably 8 months in before I had more than 10 people in a show. Like, I remember when I first started, I sold one item, my first show, and to me that was a lot. And this was before Whatnot promoted first shows. I maybe had 3 or 4 people in the show. And then I didn't make sales for a lot of shows. And for me, it was like, all right, just show all your items. It was effort, just show your items, get through it, show your items. And then it turned into, okay, show all your items 2 times. All right, make $30. If you make $30 in the show, that's your goal for the day. And then it's make $50 in the show. But it's little by little by little. It takes time. Thank you for your purchase from the bin. Y'all too, we are on YouTube. So I appreciate your purchases, but I do want to let you know, you don't have to buy something to rewatch this. If you want to rewatch, we are on YouTube and can see it at any time. I am going to start another giveaway. Let's see, what do I have in here this time? Let's see. Oh, I've got some of these really cool little, I'll do a My Vibe is Vintage sticker. So I'm going to give away one of our stickers as the next giveaway. But yeah, it takes time and consistency. Let's see. I started putting tape over the number. There you go. Unicorn Dust Designs. I love that. You can't look at that number in your room. You just can't, because you know what? I've had shows that have 5 people, and I have a core group of like the best buyers. Like they come in on my shows almost every single time. They buy from me almost every single time. And I can have a show with just those 5 and have one of the best shows I've ever had. I can have a show with 50 people and not make any money. Let's see. Amy Parent, I have been on for almost 2 years. I don't pay attention to how many people are in the room. And y'all, if you guys aren't familiar with Amy Parent, did you get your wings yet? I thought you qualified. She is like a premier seller or soon to be a premier seller. Sells a lot, is on here a lot. So that would be somebody I would go and check out the shows, see how she does it. Probably has some really good advice based on experience, based on actually being here and doing it and living it, and being successful at it. Let's see. I have been selling on here for over a year and have only sold a little over 300 sales. Sunshine, some of that, this is going to sound harsh. Sometimes if you're not finding, if you're checking all the boxes, you're on here consistent day and time. It may take a little bit to find what your day and time is, but if you're on here a consistent day and time and you're like, okay, I'm not making a lot. And so you get on here even more, because sometimes it's 2 or 3 shows a week, because people need to learn who you are. And sometimes that takes a while. I've just reduced down to 2 shows a week. I was doing 4 to build up get people to know who I am and start to recognize me. If you're doing good marketing, you're branding yourself, you're putting yourself out there, you're in shows, you're active, you're in the community, you're chatting, you're doing that stuff. If you're doing all of that, so you're doing all the things people say to do to be successful, the next step is to look at what you're selling and how you're selling it. That does sound harsh, and I don't mean this in any ill intent or any bad way. Look at your shows. Is your lighting good? Is your presentation good? What's the atmosphere that you're creating? Is your product good? Once you get all of those things in line, success will follow. It will. It's just, for most of us, it's just not overnight. And attitude when you're selling. What's your attitude like? Again, go back and watch your shows. I've never seen you. You could be the most wonderful person in the world. I don't know, and I'm not talking any ill harm. I'm just saying from a business perspective, that's how I would look at it. If I was coming in fresh to like consult, that's the things I would look at. That's Sam. I don't mind low numbers as long as I have sales, 100%. Let's see. Let me go down. I think I'm missing questions. I was on here for a year before I started selling. I refused to sell everything for $1. Yep. Hold on. What? Let's. You can't compare yourself to others. Absolutely. At Home with Chris. You can't compare yourself to others. It'll only bring you down. I can't stress that enough. Don't be afraid. Hold on. My husband saying Unicorn Dust Designs made a really good comment and I missed it. What was it, honey? I'm sorry. Oh, don't be afraid to pivot. If it's not working, try something new. 100%. I am a huge proponent, and you'll hear me say in most of my talk shows, try something new. Don't be afraid. If it doesn't work, so what? It doesn't work. What did you lose? I have tried some of the craziest shit on whatnot. I've put QR codes up. I've, tried to do special sales, done coupons, done this. Like, sometimes it works. Sometimes I take a piece of it that works. You got to keep trying different things. If what you're doing is not working and you keep doing it, so you're going to keep doing the same thing. What's that saying? It's something about you keep doing the same thing. You're going to keep getting what you get, something like that. Try something new. It's the only way. And you know what? If single shows don't work, if you feel that doesn't work, okay. Raid trains are great. I personally don't view raid trains as a way to make money. I view them as a way to get in the community, meet people, and get exposure. That way it keeps my expectations in line on raid trains when I don't make a lot of money. There you go. Thank you, Whippoorwill. Thank you. Can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. And that is like the quintessential, business right there. You just can't. You got to evolve. Who won that one? Glow HC? Or is that an NC? I can't tell. You got Glow NC. You got one of my Vibe is Vintage stickers. Congratulations. Okay, let's see. What else? Remember, item sales don't equal money. Yes, exactly. Each sale could be $700. You want to see a example of that? Go check out Eye for Beauty show. I don't know how many sales he has. I don't really pay attention to that. But go check out his show. He doesn't make a lot of sales every show, but I just saw him the other day sell like a $550 paperweight. I'd take a $550 paperweight sale in a show. If that's the only sale I made, I'd be thrilled. So, all right, y'all. We've got about 10 more minutes here. I'm going to run another giveaway. Are there any other questions? And now maybe I can touch on another topic here. Let's see. This time we're going to do a $5 Starbucks gift card for the giveaway. You guys, I'm super excited. Trying something new. Here, let me. Here's my example of trying something new. I created a giveaway bucket. I only do giveaways on my talk shows. I quit doing them on my selling shows. But look at this. I created a giveaway bucket. I'm so excited. So I have all these different giveaways. I can just reach over and grab something. That's my trying something new this week. Thank you, Lintro. I appreciate that. I love coming on here, especially talking tax and accounting. I probably won't do a lot. You can always come on my talk shows on Friday morning and ask any tax and accounting question. After this one, I'll probably go back to our normal kind of chit-chat shows, but I do really focus heavy at the end of the year on tax and accounting. Again, I will go through a Schedule C line by line by line and answer any questions. What does it mean? What do you put on this line? All of that good stuff. So we've kind of touched on a lot of the questions I have written down. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Shelby. Thank you so much. Question. We did a donation from tips. How do we go about that? Donation. Your donations are a deductible on your Schedule A. It's not a business expense if you file a Schedule C. If you are a sole proprietor filing a Schedule C, donations go on your Schedule A. It's like a personal donation. It's not a business expense. What is your formula for determining what to list your items for? That is the $1 million question. Pamber's Collections. I don't necessarily have a formula. I know what I paid for the item, so I know what I baseline what I need to get out of it. I think about the fees. I also offer free shipping, so I've got to consider some of that. I don't necessarily just increase it $9. That's not my theory at all. But I do think about it. It is part of my formula or my process of thinking. And I look up comps. Some stuff I just sell enough of that I kind of know, oh, this is a $10 item, this is a $12 item, $5, whatever. Some of it just because you do it so often, you know. I watch a lot of other people's shows. Please people understand, this is Whatnot. The Whatnot market is not the eBay market, is not the Etsy market. Whatnot is its own market. Because you may get $40 for an item on eBay does not mean people are going to pay $40 on Whatnot. Doing research, first of all, you go out to Google Lens or you go to eBay and you get a general feel, right? You need to understand what people are going to pay on Whatnot, or you're going to end up being disappointed. If your items are priced so high that are outpricing the market, and I'm talking mainly when you're general merchandise, luxury items, high-end glass, stuff like that maybe is a little bit different. General items. There is a Whatnot market. You don't go to Target and expect Dollar General prices, right? They're different stores. We're on a different market than what some of the other ones are. So you need to consider that. One of the ways you can understand the market is by watching other sellers. On average, but I mean, it's a piece of information. I don't say that to be like, oh, copy the prices that this seller has. But I can go into Hodge and see what she sells a butter pat for. I can go to Southern Charm and see what she sells a butter pat for. Go look at Unicorn Dust Designs and be like, okay, based on the people in the room, their popularity, I think this is the right price point. I find that raid trains are too short. Thank you for your purchase in the bin. I find that raid trains are too short, 30 minutes or 1 hour each. Customers end up paying a lot on shipping, although I sold 33 items in that hour. They do. It doesn't allow a lot of time for them to shop the bin or to make multiple auction purchases. I never look at, I just don't look at raid trains as a money-making venture. It's exposure. It's community for me. But yeah, they're limited. There's a theory on Whatnot, 2 hour shows and greater, get you in that algorithm, get more people in the room, equal more sales. I'm going to test it out. I actually have just rescheduled all of my Friday night shows, and I'm now extending my Saturday shows to 3 or so hours. So we're going to try it. Good morning, Sean. How are you, S-Fish? The tax part terrorist, but don't be afraid of the tax part. Keep good accounting records. The tax part will follow. Get a good CPA. It's all you need to know. Keep hearing it takes time. I'm in my senior years and my time is too precious to waste on what. Yeah, Sunshine, if it's not working, sometimes the best decision is to list it other places where it's not shows. We all got to find what works for us. And it's going to be different for each person. What works is going to be different. Who's going to get our $5 Starbucks gift card? More Kathleen. Congratulations. Thanks for being on the show today. You're going to get a coffee or tea, or maybe a little treat. I like their blueberry muffins at Starbucks. Also check actual sold price, not listed price. Amy Perrin, so correct. I see so many people go on eBay and they're like, oh, they're all listed for $85. Yeah, but they sold for $10. Like, you could ask what you want to ask. And if you don't have to believe me. You don't have to take my word for it. But set up some auctions. Run auctions at $20. So if you think it's worth the same eBay price, go for it. Run it at the eBay price. See how many you sell, and then drop the price and see how many you sell. It's just the way it is. Like, I'm not making it up. If you have been using accrual method accounting, is it difficult to transition to cash? No, it's not, because your accrual adjustments, usually you do monthly. That's easy just to quit doing those accrual adjustments. However, if you are already advanced enough to do accrual method accounting, don't go back. Like, why? Why would you go back? You're doing GAAP accounting. You're doing the best possible way to make decisions with accrual accounting. Again, that's taken from a CPA perspective. So, yeah, I wouldn't go back. But no, you just back out your accrual adjustments that you would make. What I can get for an item is way lower than other popular sellers. Thank you for your purchase from the bin. My shows are 2 to 4 hours for me. It didn't matter.
Thank
Oh,
you.
really? I find that interesting. I've heard from everybody who's tested out this 2-hour thing, enough so that that's why I'm going to try to do longer shows on Saturdays. Mary says, I do 4 or 5 hours regularly, and the best, highest sales are always after 2 hours. Yeah, I've heard that. I love discounts. Yes, I can't do an I love discounts. Y'all are like monsters out there. You just go and go and go and go. I do not know how or where you get your energy. It amazes me. But instead of doing Friday night shows, I'm extending my Saturday shows. Here's my thinking. I am one person. It's sellers. You got to think about this. I mean, it's me and my husband. We're a team here, but he really doesn't do the shipping. I do the shipping. And I can only ship so much on time. I want to ship within 2 days. I don't want to be late. I can only ship so much. So I was doing a Friday night show and a Saturday show and doing most of my shipping on Sundays. If I'm going to increase those shows and hopefully increase the sales, I can't do both. So I've taken my Friday, I'm going to combine it with my Saturday and try to do a longer Saturday so then I can still ship and maybe still hit that 3 to 4 hour mark. So jewelry is different. Jewelry is very competitive. It is. After 4 hour unicorn, 4 hours, and new buyers after 2.5. Let's see. I do 4 or 5 regularly. Yep. I see a lot of people say the two. I've heard this enough. Oh, thank you, Southern Charm. You know, y'all, Southern Charm says their shipping is the best. She is the sweetest person ever because I just sent something to her that got broke in the mail. I pack pretty darn good. I'm going to say so myself. I'm not bragging on myself. I say I pack good only because I've had less than 10 items out of over 4,000 items break. So that percentage is very, very low. But that is very sweet of you, Southern Charm, to say that. It makes me feel wonderful, especially after knowing you just got that soup turned broken. Thank you, At Home with Chris. Sam, that's a great point. My items don't sell at the same price point as other sellers, but I wonder will lose my small base when I raise my prices. Sam, I have slowly been raising prices, but not drastic. My buyers expect a certain price point too. I've built up a reputation and a buyer base at a certain price point. When I went to free shipping, the first logical thing you would think is, all right, double your prices or increase all of your prices. I couldn't do that. I would instantly lose all my buyers. I'd just be shooting myself in the foot and taking away any benefit of free shipping at that point. So what I have done, some prices have raised. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Some prices have raised. When I'm introducing new items, instead of going to the lower end of what I may up it a little bit. Some have raised. But what I did more consistently is in my selling shows, I quit discounting as much. So, you know, when you pick up an item and it's listed as $15, and you're like, oh, I'm going to run it for $12. I quit doing that as often. I quit doing giveaways and funneling that money that I would have spent on those things or not making into my shipping instead. They have naturally increased. Yeah. And you know what? You can still look at your prices in comparison to everybody else. I feel as a seller, I can say very comfortably and honestly that my prices are comparable or maybe even lower than some of the other sellers. And I feel good about being able to say that. But you should get what you need out of the product too. Don't cut yourself short. I have loss leaders just like everybody else has loss leaders. I have items that I will put for $5 and then pay $9 in shipping. But the thought is that they buy 2 or 3 items and it makes up for it in the long run on the averages. All right, y'all. It is 9 o'clock. It is Friday. I still have to work my day job. So I am going to head out here. We're going to go find somebody to raid. I think maybe I do not do giveaways during selling shows. I used to. I quit when I went to free shipping as part of funneling that money into a different type of benefit to my buyer. Thank you, Pamber. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I only do giveaways during the talk shows just because I think they're fun. And if you notice, they're plain white envelope giveaways. I'm not doing something big and fancy. I'm just trying to say, hey, thanks for being here. Thank you, Sean. All right, you guys, let's go find somebody. I'm going to take a quick look here and see if I can find somebody to go and raid. I do not know who is on right now. Let's see, who's somebody in community? I love to kind of stay natural state of high. We just went into her last week, but we're going to do it again because I love Zodi. Zodi is awesome. So y'all, if you don't know Zodi, there she is right there. We're going to go raid her really quick Thank you so much. Please come back and support me. Tomorrow is French Country Show, and then I'm throwing in some vintage variety at the end of the show. So hope to see you guys. Have a great weekend.
Honey, what are you doing?
Nothing?